Welcome to the Dreamboat. Remember, you can join the DRI for just £30 a year. You get access to more content, including videos and discounts for our events. It's a great way of finding out more about our work, joining our dream community, and supporting this podcast. Details in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk/membership. Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Dave Billington, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also director of the Dream Research Institute. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist Laura Payne.
Hello, I'm Laura Payne, and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute. And we're called the Dreamboat because we are recording our podcast overlooking the beautiful canal barges here at Little Venice in London.
We'll be looking at dreams, talking to guest experts, and answering your questions.
Now, let's get on with the episode. So, our guest today is one of those very special artists whose work draws you in and inspires in such a deep and intense way. It really does hit your psyche. Much of this magical creativity has been poured into her amazing tarot and oracle decks, which I will freely admit I've worked with over the years with students and clients alike in my practice. So I am really excited that she has joined us today.
That's right. Kim Krans has received her BFA in drawing in New York City. She has an MFA in mixed arts, and the thing that I'm most jealous of is Kim has an MA in Jungian depth psychology and creativity from Pacifica in California. Kim has also studied shamanism and other interesting, fascinating things that she's going to talk about with us today. So without further ado, welcome to the Dreamboat, Kim.
Thank you so much, Laura and Maria, for having me today.
Oh, it's lovely to have you on board, Kim. And I suppose the inevitable question that you always get asked is, when you started and you became an artist, what drew you on to be a Jungian? And did the tarot cards come in, and your relationship with drawing tarot cards and oracle deck cards come in as part of that work?
Exactly. You just about said it right there. The tarot deck is what drew me to ask this question of really what is fueling the tarot? Why does it work? Why are the cards so effective? Why are the symbols and the what I would come to know as archetypes so effective over the centuries? And so when I drew the Wild Unknown Tarot in 2012, it was a self-publish, and then the distribution was fast and wide, and then HarperCollins picked it up in 2016. By that time, I had drawn the Animal Spirit deck and was still researching this question, what is making the tarot work for people? And that question, to some degree, it still remains unanswered to me, but I think I've gotten deeper into it. And it led me to study Jungian psychology at Pacifica, where then I learned that underneath the tarot, what's kind of fueling it, or what I think of as the engine of the vehicle that is the tarot, is the archetypes. And then what is fueling the engine, so to speak, is that spark. You know, there's always a spark inside the engine of any vehicle, and that would be alchemy. So in a way, it all comes down to the elements if you dig deeply enough. But meanwhile, that journey at Pacifica and studying Jung and depth psychology was just incredibly impactful for me as an artist and as a human being. So it was quite a journey. The journey of the four decks, beginning with the tarot and ending with alchemy, is kind of a journey of 10, 12 years of research and creative study in my life.
Yeah. I realised then that I must have bought one of your packs when you had self-published, because I've had mine for quite a long time, as I said. And so, when you were studying, were you drawing were you doing that type of drawing when you were doing art? Were you playing with tarot cards, or did that come after?
Drawing has always been with me. So I started drawing at 15, quite a rigorous drawing teacher I had. I went to art school, and so I was drawing 2 to 3 hours a day since I was 15. And I had a very mystical, hard-edged teacher who was very demanding and rigorous, but she was also quite convincing in the idea that the line contains energy, and if you draw enough, you can imbue and let the line come to life, and people will feel that energy. So I think a lot about her when I hear the impact that the cards have on people, that there's something about the line or the vitality of the artwork that helps people be attracted to it and then stay with the image.
That's really fascinating, because I was researching your decks, and some of the comments that were coming up over and over again some of them are about how beautiful they are, but the others were around the energy that comes through the cards themselves. So it's so interesting to hear you say that, and that's what people really recognize in them.
Thank you. That's always great to hear. And when I hear those types of things, I think of it kind of is the evidence that I need now, decades later, that my art teacher was telling me, was the line is living, and we want to give it as much life force as we can, and people will feel that. And this is the same idea that you can apply to any dream work, working with symbols, working with a tarot card. It's that shamanic idea that the thing is living, and we can help it come to life and nourish it through our attention and through our work with it, rather than trying to get something out of it all the time. Rather, we give it attention and we give it energy, and then it's kind of this feedback loop.
Yeah. Well, Maria and I, for a long time, and we've been discussing how we were going to have and who we wanted to invite as an episode of Tarot and Dreams. And so obviously for me, you were the first choice. So I'm really intrigued about your own dream life. How much of, these cards and your other cards, how much of they have been inspired by your own dream life?
It's a great question. My art, up until I went to the Pacifica, the Jungian program, was very much inspired by images that came through meditation and nidra, which is a dream-like sleeping wakefulness sort of yogic practice, where it trains you to be in that very liminal state of awareness. And so sometimes I would ask for an image for a certain card to come through in that space. But I didn't yet tap into the nighttime dream realm at that point, because it felt like it does for many people, might feel, quote, random or confusing or crazy or wild, or all these things we might say about our dream life. And then I joined the program at Pacifica, and I learned on day 2 that we were going to be studying and working with dreams, because Carl Jung was obsessed with dreams. And I was like, wow, what do I do? I have 4 years in this program, and either I could basically BS my way through the program, or I could see if they know what they're talking about and if Carl Jung was right. So I, at that point, undertook a year-long art project that I called A Year in the Dark, where I woke up and I made a small collage from my dream by the light of one candle, so in the dark,
Wow.
every day for 1 year.
Gosh.
And through that practice, by day 3, I was like, okay, by the way, Carl Jung was right, and dreams are really important and revelatory for artists, and just for being in contact with your deeper self. But my dream recall and my sort of dream universe was built in that year. And so that was about 10 years ago, and I've been working through a Jungian lens, but also a shamanic lens and a creative lens with dreams ever since.
That's so inspiring. I'm thinking of all the people who are saying, oh my God, you expect me to wake up in the middle of the night and write down my dream? And you took it to such a different level of waking up and making a collage by candlelight. How did you come up with that idea, and how was it for you?
Well, one of the ideas in grad school was to suspend the intellect and the knowing. So the artist in me is very honed at this point. So I can go in and be very efficient and very sort of like intellectual and directive with what I want to make. And I was really interested in this idea of not knowing and actually trying to work with the material of the dream. So I had to, in a sense, suspend my my honed gifts. And one of the ways to do that as an artist is to limit your vision. So I would wake up super early where you're sleepy and just use the light of one candle. So I couldn't really see. So the idea was, if I spend a year in this darkness, in parentheses would be what Jung would call like with the unconscious, in that like liminal, or even like the idea of prima materia, that base material of the unconscious, what will happen? And it really was an experiment. I was just like, I need to know if this is true. And so it helped me learn so much about not only my dream life, but how to work with dreams creatively, and what the long-term gains are of taking on the mystery in that way. My company is called The Wild Unknown, and it's like I kind of have to, walk the walk.
Exactly. Live the wild unknown.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly feels pretty wild and pretty unknown. And when you were talking about it, I was thinking, yes, that whole prima materia, what we, when teaching alchemy to our students, call, it's the nigredo state. And what comes out of that is all potential and all possibilities. And, if you let go in dreams, that's what you're accessing, the potentiality. And I'm intrigued when you were talking, what type of dreams did you end up drawing out of interest? Did you have a significant one?
I did, several. In a way, I feel like I'm still sifting through that project.
Yeah.
I'll pull them out. At some point, I'll have an exhibition or do a book of all of the collages.
Oh, wow. That would be an amazing thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. But there's 365, so it's just like, they're all 8 by 8. So it's really something when you see them together. But there was one collage that I made from a dream. I remember the dream was something about a spaceship and a portal through time. There is a spaceship and a portal through time. That's all that the dream snippet said on the back of the collage. And as I was gluing down the page, I had picked out also another element of it was, as I went along month by month, I was trying to get deeper and deeper into that letting go of control. So I would hold the dream vision in my mind and repeat the dream phrase, and then pick out a book with my eyes closed, flip open to a page with my eyes closed, and then cut it out. And so I started to see how much I could let go of my control as an artist and what would still appear. So I had picked out these 2 images for the dream. I have a spaceship and a portal through time. And I went to glue it on the back side of the page. And when I flipped it over, I saw the image of Anne Frank's face. And it was cut like as in a picture in a magazine. And when I saw it, it was paired with this image I had already glued down of this like very fierce sort of Wolverine creature from this old magazine. And I was so stunned by the pairing that I never would have done with my mind. But by, this is another Jungian theme, is that synchronicity or spontaneity of the occurrence. And so when I actually used those, I never flipped it back over. I used the image of Anne Frank. And that conjured up in me just like a massive re-interest and re-remembering of her life's work. And so I went and just read as much as I could about her and reread her diary, and eventually did quite a bit of active imagination with her image and figure. And then I went to the Anne Frank house as a final thesis project for grad school. And I took a train to Bergen-Belsen where she died, and I did a prayer and practice in that concentration camp, which is now a memorial site. So that project led to this, like, a deeply meaningful experience for me as a human, as the really required all of my courage and my compassion and everything I could muster as an artist to sort of go ahead and pack the bags and go on a trip like that. And I still look back at it as one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. So
that's an incredible story to hear. Thank you for sharing that. I got goosebumps as you were talking about it.
Me too. I want to go back.
It just speaks to the power of the dream, that it's not just random images like you were saying earlier. It's so meaningful when you follow the thread. And I love how you use the collage almost as what I'm imagining as divination into the dream. And that expands it so much further than your maybe personal material into the collective. And then letting the symbol or the image of Anne Frank live, rather than reducing, oh, she was this and that, therefore it's this part of me. You let it breathe and live for a whole year. That's really moving.
Thank you. I think letting the image breathe and live is very underrated and underutilized in dream work now. And I find it to be so healing and so generative, especially for creatives, to not stamp it with interpretation right away and, in a sense, close the dream. Like, I've done my dream work for today, and you take this gigantic, massive power source, which is the dream, and you sort of put it away like you've conquered it, you've figured it out. And I really love the dreams that live in us over time and reveal slowly and deeply. I think of them more like, an ally or a big dream force that is protective and really needs time to show us. It's almost a self-revealed knowledge that comes from it.
I mean, I love all of that Jungian approach to the active imagination. It's one of the most powerful aspects, I think, of working in a Jungian way as a therapist or as an artist or whatever, to stay with what comes up. And when I was in Jungian therapy, my therapist was really conscious that you draw your dreams every time, because something always sticks with you. And it's easier, as you say, to let it grow and it to breathe. And suddenly more becomes revealed because you're not just doing interpretation. And I love how you described that, Kim. It's and to go to the camps is always painful, moving, goosebumpy, but to have gone there through a dream feels very, it just feels very special. And is it that inspired you to, because I know you're about to launch your own series of your own dream course as such. Did that come out of this particular work for you?
Definitely. I think the dream course is my attempt to share the practices and, moreover, the ways in which we can let the dreams live and breathe and reside in us and reverberate through our lives, because there's such a temptation. We live in a very extractive, transactional culture, and it's easy to apply that same mindset to dreams. Like, you wake up, what can I get from this dream? What do I need to learn? What do I do? And that can be helpful, right time, right place. And there's a whole other world of the dream that it can offer us so much guidance and healing, and also just the feeling tone of it that requires us to slow down and to be willing to experience the dream rather than intellectualize the dream. And so I was feeling like, wow, I want to offer some of these techniques so that artists and the dream curious can not just go to ChatGPT for dream interpretation, which is, it's fine, and that's one way to do it. And I always think it's like, it reminds me of like, chatbot phone sex. It's like, it works. It's something will happen. And there's time and a place for everything. But like the intimacy, that's like the biggest word for me, is like the intimacy to build as a lover. The skills you learn working with a dream slowly and intimately, I think apply to being a lover, working with tarot cards, working with oracle cards, working with the planets and astrology, working with mantra, working with an image during meditation, rather than commanding it and saying, I know this, but to be willing to feel it every day as a new experience. The vast magic or presence or mystery or discomfort, terror, delight of the image that's in front of you.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Maria, but I love the phrase dream curious. It's one of the things I always say to people, be curious. We don't know anything. We think we do. But if you open up that curious mindset, again, you're stepping into potentiality. You're stepping into, to use your wonderful phrase, the wild unknown. And that's so creative.
And that for me is also the tarot cards and the oracle cards. They're the same. They're an access to the wild unknown. And it's beautiful that you're combining all of these. What came to mind when you were talking about your approach to dreams was something I heard you say in a different interview about not including the hero card or the hero archetype in one of your decks. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And now it makes sense to me because you're talking about this not sending the hero down into the underworld, right? What can I get from here? And what can I take from this dream so I can make more money and make myself more appealing or whatever and sort out my life? Just having that respect for the dream, not being heroic about it. Maybe that's just the meaning I'm making from it all.
No, it's very true. It's a different way of relating. It's not like the subject-object split, but really if we go with this shamanic premise that the dream is living, it's like, well, how do we like to be treated as people? If you meet a new person and they just tell you who you are and they tell you what you're all about and they, what I call like dream-splain, like all over you, it's so much nicer to spend the afternoon with them and to chat and to move and to get to know them and experience the world. So I find symbols are the same. It's like, how can we be in presence with them? So it's this idea of being with and engaging with, rather than some of the other more extractive forms of relating.
Yeah. And so, Kim, for listeners, how are you, if they join your dream course, how is it going to be structured? How's it going to work?
It's a great question. We have 4 weeks, so trying to, conjure this massive thing into a 4-week, digestible system. So it's really just the beginning. So the first week we'll focus on, we'll do a little dream theory, like why do dream work? And also dream recall, which is such a big thing for people, just being able to remember dreams. So there's a lot of techniques around that I've learned over the years. And the second week is protecting the dream. So how to share the dreams, why, how to listen to other people's dreams, how to exchange these powerful images without sort of dissipating the energy. And then also how to speak about the dream. So there's a lot of things that we do that unconsciously dismiss the dream, saying like, oh, this crazy dream last night, and it was so weird because all this weird shit happened, and da da da, and just, and you're thinking like, wow, what if someone talked about me that way? Like, I probably wouldn't come over to their house anymore, you know?
Exactly.
So just knowing like, oh, maybe ask the person you're with, like, I had a really interesting dream last night. Can I share with you? You know, that just honoring the dream that in that way is a really big first step. And so that's what we'll do the second week, sort of dream etiquette, honestly.
I love how you called that, because these are questions we get asked the whole time at the DRI. And you're right, you often, to begin with, when you're running a dream group or whatever, it's explaining to the group and allowing the group to understand, as all of the things you've just said, dream etiquette, it's really essential.
Yeah, I find it's almost the core. Once you have that, you've established a community, and you can go really anywhere within the dream sphere. And then you have, you know, over years, I have friends I've been sharing dreams with for years, and there's just certain tidy, you know, sort of rules that we follow in order to make it the most expansive and generative space. And I value those spaces more than, you know, a lot of others. So that'll be our second week. Third week, we will work on amplification and animation. So some of these Jungian Hillman ideas of like working with myth and active imagination, and in a sense, bringing the image back out to the world. And then week 4, we will be working with bridging the dream. So bringing the dream into our daily life and creating art. And yeah, that's the arc.
Oh, it sounds lovely, lovely. And how many people are you going to take on? Because as we know, sharing dreams can take up time.
Yes, exactly. So there's a cap of 50 people. We've just actually filled, we filled the first session. So August is now closed, but we are likely opening one for September. So that'll be open hopefully by the time the podcast airs. And I wanted to keep it an intimate space. So the dream work, you know, hopefully the course can spread far and wide, but a bit at a time, so we can really learn to trust the group and create, more than anything to me, is the feeling tone of like what I call the dreaming room. So it's like the space where we gather, where the dream is honored as like a sacred form of image and message. So that's the idea.
That's beautiful. It makes me think of when I'm in dream groups, that there's something indeed, the perception of time changes. Time goes faster. In a way, almost you lose track of it, and almost even psychic boundaries melt because people start to have images about each other's dreams. And it's almost like you enter a different dimension in that moment.
Exactly. And I think that exact quality is the thing that's most important for people to experience, because then they realize it's possible and that we can actually create that and uphold those types of spaces in the world, which are very nourishing and very, I think they're healing and loving. I have a dream group that I've been working with, a few women in England, and there's maybe 6 of us for the last several years, on and off for maybe 5 years. And when we meet, we sign on and no one's saying anything. We're just waiting for everyone to get on. And the feeling in the Zoom room, I swear, like sometimes I log on and I just cry. It's just like all the goings on of life. And there's this one space that I go to, and just the feeling tone is so, it's like satiates me the way other things don't. So I really cherish those spaces, and I want to do what I can to uphold that in this time.
Yeah, you make it sound holy, and I find that as well. It's deeply spiritual, it's intimate, as you say, and a lot of trust is required to hold that space collectively and it not be abused. And if you want to come openly to something like that, which is what is required, all of those parameters need to be in place. And I think it's that makes it feel so nourishing because it is a holy space in the end. And it's lovely to hear you describe it in that way. And so at the end of the 4 weeks, are you going to encourage people to form their own dream groups? What's going to happen after that as far as you see it going?
Well, there will be a final creative project, which I'm very excited for people to just give their creative impulse over to the dream and see what happens after that month of working with images. So we'll have that. And then I hope to do, there might be a phase 2, we're not sure yet, but I then want to offer an in-person dream camp so we can be meeting and sharing in real life and see what happens when people come together to do dream work intentionally. So that's on the map. I thought that would be happening in early October, but it looks like it'll be in the spring.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot to manage from the sound of things. So lots of things I want to ask you, but just so that we can sort of guide people, we'll put a link to all of this, obviously, in the show notes for people who are interested in joining Kim's work in some way. And it's, I presume, people join via the website. Is that correct?
Yes.
Just generally, in terms of oracle decks and tarot, when you were doing, I'm going to show it again. This is this is the archetypes, the wild unknown archetypes that I love. When you were sort of contemplating that, and I should say to people, why I love them is that they're round, they're not square. And for me, that was sort of, A, it's very tactile, and B, there are no edges for energy to get stuck in, for want of a better description. And they come in this beautiful round black pack, which you then store them in, which makes them feel even more precious when you get them out. And I just wondered, because they're vast. I can't remember, how many cards are there altogether, Kim, in the pack?
I think there's 70 in archetypes, 73.
Yeah. Well, it's substantial, which I also like. But the drawings are just so exquisite, and they are so well thought out. And the more you work with them, again, as you were saying, the more that becomes revealed. Did any of these drawings come out from dreams, or did you just go into a particular sort of space to create these?
Oh,
that was a mixture.
That deck was drawn during a very, very deep time in my life. I had just started Pacifica. I had just completed my year-long dreaming practice, which had collage, which is why those cards have a bit of collage in them too. I had just left a 11-year marriage, and I was living solo for the first time on the Pacific Ocean. And I was surfing all the time. So I was in suddenly this other day-to-day life, and my identity as I knew it was completely changed. And I was doing a lot of nidra at that time. And so I remember cards like the desert and the gem and the tear. Those are things that I saw in that space, and then would try to draw and recreate once I got back to my studio. But all of the archetypes, since they're such massive forces, are really hard to capture pictorially. So I had to do my best to keep making the image as expansive as I could. Just thinking about how do you depict the mother? That's where it's so easy and so difficult. So I guess the best way to describe it would be the dream work I was doing and the collage work was helping me to loosen up more and more and more with my image depictions of the archetypes.
I should say for listeners, if you haven't got Kim's deck, that the mother is this beautiful set of hands cupping a pearl. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and so I think you've captured mother really beautifully. Really,
it's
beautifully.
Like inside a nest, I think. So it's thinking about different forms of mother, and it's interesting.
Yeah. And so I decided I would pull a card.
I was hoping you would talk about it, Laura. Go on.
Well, I work a lot with your pack, as I keep saying. Anyway, I pulled the box, which I find really interesting because it's not a card I don't think I have ever pulled myself before. And I just wondered what you made of it. I mean, I'm quite intrigued.
Well, I think it's already fascinating that you said you prefer the circular cards because there's no edges where energy gets trapped, and then you pull the box card.
Exactly. And I should say, audience doesn't know this, but I'm seeing Kim and Maria in little square boxes on the screen in front of me, and I suddenly thought, Kim's in the box. But I did share with Maria beforehand, I do feel slightly boxed in at present. And so when I read through, because obviously Kim has produced this most beautiful guidebook. But what I love about your guidebook, Kim, is that you have lots of ideas and thoughts of what to read, what pictures to look at. Not just interpretations, but guidance. And I think that's what makes the deck so interesting. And I read the guidance on this quite in a sort of with an open heart, and it has been inspiring. So
help me out here. I don't know what this is. What's the archetype of the box?
It's like a series. So the audience can see. It's a series of squares within squares within squares within squares. There is a light at the end of the tunnel of this never-ending box.
How did that come through for you, Kim?
Oh, well, the box, just the idea of containment, like a sort of Saturnian containment that is restrictive, constrictive, structural, rules, formats. In a way, it's like very necessary energy. Even if you're going to make a deck or you're going to write a book, you've got to have that containment and structure in order to create within it. And for the thing to come out in the world, you have to decide 78 cards. It goes in a box. They're going to be round. They're going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of artists don't actually like that type of energy. They feel too confined. But if you can learn how to use confinement to just give enough structure and sort of tidiness to the container, so to speak, then you can flourish within it. And I think what Laura was saying at the very beginning when she started talking about the deck was I like the circular cards, like the way it feels to work with the circle. So even this sounds sort of like rudimentary, but it's actually such a deep reflection on shape and how we organize thought and consciousness is if you're in a situation or even a relationship or any moment, you can sort of just contemplate, does this feel like a box or does this feel like a circle? And so the conversation or the situation has a certain quality to it where the circle is going to be more expansive and open and vast and really allows so much. And of course, there's the association with the mandala, which Jung was quite obsessed with as a reflection of the self. So it's very endless, whereas the box is going to define and hold, and some ways can feel quite uncomfortable. But the ever-expanding circle is not really going to help anyone if you need to sort of rein things in sometimes. So knowing the difference between those two shapes, the sort of archetypal resonance of them, you could say, I think is very useful for just knowing what your preferences are at any given moment of time. If you're thinking like, oh, I'm feeling a little boxed in right now, like what would be a circular way to work with this situation or dynamic or vice versa? things feel really spaced out, you're like, okay, I'm going to hone it in and ground us right now as a teacher or as a leader.
I love what you're saying. As a Saturnian person myself, I I love the containment. I see it as something positive and not suffocating. And thinking back to the image of that light, the gem in the middle, that you're able to create when you're kind of maybe even under pressure, maybe under some limits or some rules for yourself. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes me think of your dream practice as well, with the way you did it for a year. That was maybe, in a way, a sort of box.
Yeah, it was Saturnian. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Saturn.
Yeah, exactly.
Me too.
Me too.
Saturn is like the most undervalued planet.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking of some of those old images of Saturn. There is one, I think, is it by William Blake? I can't remember, where the big Saturnian figure is huddled over this candle.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of Goya's Saturn devouring his sun.
That's the one, yes.
It's bone-chilling and weep-worthy, and I do look at that image, I don't know, every couple months just to keep myself in check, because it's a really powerful image. Yeah.
So to bring this back to dreams, so for me, I'm going to obviously contemplate this card, the box, before going to sleep and see how it surfaces in my dreams. So that's, for me, is one way that I would work with tarot in dreams. Are there other ways that you recommend, Kim, for people? How would you work with tarot and dreams, or how would you suggest people work with your cards and dreams?
It's a great question. I think there's a couple different ways. One would be to ask for a clarifying image. So sometimes we can do a reading and it's like you almost get it, but there's something maybe unclear about it. So you could take the idea of the box card and say, before you go to sleep, you could put the card under the pillow on the nightstand, just look at it before you go to bed. And it's just this idea of like, dreamer, please send me a clarifying image of the box. And oftentimes it will deliver like a pretty distilled dream scene or dream snippet that can help clarify when you ask that specifically. I think that would be the way I would tend to direct someone if they want to use tarot in dreams. Another is to work with a card, over a month. If you want to pick the Magician, you just want to understand, like, I think I get it, but like, I know there's more to know here. And just for 1 month, you set that card on your altar and you just ask the dream to link to that archetypal energy of the Magician and track your dreams. And I use a prayer, a specific prayer, dear, whatever the archetype would be. In this case, it's Dear Magician, please awaken, please overlight my work so I may know your will and your ways. And I use that anytime I'm doing work where I want the symbol to reveal itself more fully to me so I can know it. I'll just say that it's quite a simple sort of opening prayer, and you can do that with the cards at any time, but certainly like before bed or before meditation. It's very helpful, and to just allow it to move towards you, not feeling like you have to figure something out by the morning, but spending some time with it.
Yeah. Love it. That's a really lovely sort of approach. And yes, I'd be intrigued to hear from listeners if they adopt that, what comes up for them. Really, really lovely.
And there's always drawing. There's always,
good old drawing.
dream drawing and tarot drawing and, drawing your own versions of the card. That I find that also very, very revealing, because then we're out of the thinking mind, we're in the creative. So I think that's valid too.
I feel really inspired, and what I'm taking from this, I think I'm going to do some dream collages. I've only collaged meditation visions before, but I don't know if I'm going to do it like you, wake up so early. And that feels, this is where my ego is kind of negotiating here. but I would love to try it. And in the way you did it, where I'm not picking the images, I'm letting the images kind of surface themselves and use that as divination and create, in a way, my own tarot cards, oracle cards around the dreams. That feels really powerful.
Yeah, I hope you do it. It's so fabulous, and you can get plenty of great art books at the thrift stores and fashion magazines and whatever things at used catalogs. And when I first started, I was trying to illustrate the dream. So if it was a dream of a taxi cab, I was trying to find a taxi cab in the magazines, and then I loosened that up more and more over time, and so sometimes it would just be a yellow image, and I think, oh, that's it. That gives me that speedy taxi feeling. And so I started to get much looser with my interpretations, and I think that at some point, maybe not right away, but at some point that's very valid and useful for us to make those leaps.
It's almost like you're getting to the essence of the image in a way, rather than loosening the structure or the outer appearance, the material side of it.
Exactly. It's like a essence or distilling process. And it's a different type of language, which is very hard to teach or learn except through experience, just having your own knowing of when it's occurring. Like, oh, that rings true. That image rings true for the dream. I'm not sure why, but it does.
Yeah. Well, Kim, wonderful, absolutely wonderful to have you on board the Dream Boat. Thank you so much. I wish you a great success with the Infinite Dream Workshop or Infinite Dream Course. I think I've got it. I've got the right title for it, Infinite Dream Course. And you can obviously join the course if you're interested via Kim Krans' website, which will be on our show notes, and be intrigued to see how that develops and evolves, Kim, over the next few months for you, because it sounds a great adventure.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely lovely to chat with you.
Well, Maria, what did you make of all of that?
That was really exciting. I'm going to go and buy those decks now, which I was hoping not to do because I already have too many. But maybe you can't have too many tarot decks and oracle decks.
Oh, you can't have too many of Kim Krans's.
That's
so
true.
Lovely. I just picked them up and I'm already stroking them as I talk to you. Because
Welcome to the fan club.
I know, they are just... I had and I have got a lot of tarot cards, and I play with them, not seriously, but I like them for creative inspiration. And I've got the traditional rider pack and other packs, but I don't use any of them anymore. I do just play with her archetypes pack. I haven't got her alchemy pack, which surprises me. I think perhaps because I don't want to dilute what I get from the archetype pack, but I know people who have them and love the alchemy pack as well. What do you think about her relationship with dreams, out of interest?
I was fascinated by it. I think it's so interesting to get an artist's lens on dreams, especially for someone like me who's, I love a bit of interpretation. I love a bit of naming things, animus, senex, and it's lovely I'm trying to distance myself from that as well and just let the dream breathe and live. And I was just so moved by her story of following that dream in that side quest. Really, like, it would make no sense to anyone if you said, oh, I had this dream of a spaceship and I can't remember what the other symbol was, and now I'm off on this
portal, yes.
A portal, yes. And off on this extensive journey and discovery. Most people would be like, you're crazy, right?
Yeah,
But I'm sure she got so much out of it, and we both felt the energy as she was talking about it. What did you think?
Well, the story about Anne Frank I found deeply fascinating, and have been on a very similar journey. So I get the emotion that sits behind it, but how it evolved for her from a dream and from her drawings. And when you work with her cards, you get that sense of evolution through the drawing. There's something that really pulls your psyche in, because that's obviously the level that she's tuning into herself. And I found the story about the year of working just with candlelight on the dream imagery. Just what an amazing thing to do. What dedication I felt to one's dream life, and trying to make it not just dream time, but bringing dream time into life was, I'd love to see a book of those 365 drawings. I bet it will be stunning.
I would love that book too, and to pull it out every time a client says, oh, it's just too hard to write it in the middle of the night. Pull the book of, these are 365 dreams that this person made. It's too hard, huh? Yeah, really, really special. I'm going to try that for sure myself as well. And you know what? It's also the way she talks about dreams and doing that kind of practice. It's the part where I think you go from dream work as a casual thing that you do and you share your dreams with friends and maybe with your therapist every now and then, to dream work as spiritual practice and a container for spiritual practice, which is what I hear from her. And then how many doors that opens to creativity, to the unknown, to mystery, to God, or whatever you want to say, you know. And that feels really, I think you used the word holy. And inspiring. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for joining us on the Dreamboat again today with Kim. And from me, everybody, sweet dreams.
For me, go on and write those dreams. You can do it.
So, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast, and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.